He was to me like a sage, and that's a statement you don't hear made about many people, or you don't come across too many people referred to as a sage.
Milton was born in 1939. He was number 8 in a family of 10. We lived in Strathcona, and it was a truly international community because when we went to school, there were students from every country you could name. Now, Father was very civic-minded because when voting day came, he put his suit on, his tie off, and he proudly went off to vote. Points out the civic values that he had. And then Mother was very involved with the church. She did visitations, taking food to different families. And so the example was set early on.
Milton Wong was my lifelong friend, and I am assuming that I met him in grade 1 because I can't remember much before grade 1, and I can never remember not knowing him. Milton and I grew up together in Strathcona, and we hung around the community, irritating Chinese merchants in Chinatown and hanging out at Gibbs Boys Club. The Gibbs Boys Club had a big paper drive, and if we collected enough paper, we could win a bike. So we decided to collect all this paper. And then we discovered that we weren't competing against just Gibbs Club, but all the boys clubs in Vancouver. And they published the tonnage that other people had. And we thought, wow, we'll never win. So the hell with it. We're not going to give us our papers. Now we had our papers and we thought, what do we do with it? Well, in Chinatown at that time, the markets used to wrap fish and chicken and that in newspaper. We sold it to the Chinatown merchants for something like 1.50 cents a pound. I think that was his idea. We had a lot of life experiences together. Mel had quite a good relationship with his older brothers, Bill and Jack. And they sometimes took on almost the role of a mentor for him as well as like a father role.
Christchurch Cathedral downtown sponsored Good Shepherd Mission. The church was associated with the Camp Artaban, the Anglican church camp in Howe Sound. And this is where Jack and Bill went in 1936, and then Milton and I followed suit.
I first met Milton at Camp Artaban in 1945 or 1946. Milton became a lover of Camp Artaban, and I think what he really appreciated was that everybody there was equal.
Camp Artaban and the church had a great impact on us because it introduced us to the greater community, and where we all members felt accepted, the campers.
Whether they happened to be mentally challenged, physically challenged, or socially challenged in many ways, or whether they were Caucasian or whatever race. Everybody was treated the very same, and I think Milton really appreciated that.
Milton would later on become camp director, having progressed from camper leader, kitchen staff. For 2 weeks, he was in charge of 200 kids, and I think this left quite an impact on him.
You know, when I met Milt for the first time, I really didn't know what I was looking for. I just wanted to meet, the famous Milton Wong. Hopefully he'd give me a job, but the reality he didn't. But he gave me something way more valuable. He gave me, his thoughts, his ideas. It was the start of my career, and he put me on a track that, if I never met him, I would be doing something totally different. And, I really love my life now, and, I owe my life and everything that has happened to Milton.
I think one thing about Milt, a lot of people don't know, is how many people, how many organizations he actually supported. People know about the Dragon Boat. Some people will know he supported Camp Artaban, but there are a lot of other groups that were supported by him in his efforts to make things better.
When I first started the festival, it was really hard to get funding, as most people know. My friend Christina Bjorno worked with Milton at HSBC, and she told me that, maybe you should talk to Milton. That he did all these big projects like Dragon Boat, and he did Science World. I didn't know if we would be too small potatoes or too little for him. He gave me a little bit of seed money just to get it off the ground.
Milton was actually a very dynamic guy. At any one time, he had 100 things going, and you could never pinpoint what he was doing because he was doing so much for so many people.
Milton's legacy is one of unselfishness and giving of self for the betterment of the community around him, without any fanfare, very quietly, but did an amazing amount of good. He was a great camper. He stood out because he was a leader even in those days in what he did. And in the kitchen, he certainly took a lead role there too, and I guess that held him in good stead as he was always fond of cooking.
He loved to cook. But what I liked about when Milt cooked, if you were there, you were going to cook too.
It goes back to when Father had the tailor shop. There were some 25, 30 employees. So these were bachelors and they had no family. And so every Christmas and New Year's, they came for the family feast.
He cooked for all of his daughters and all of their friends. And once when I cornered him and asked him about it, he actually mentioned that he didn't always like cooking, but what he really cared about was his daughters. He wanted to know everything about his daughters and be that incredible father.
He had a great ability that I have not seen anywhere else to make everybody feel great about whatever it was that they believed in or whatever it was that they did.
I hope that the younger generation, the next generation, will take his lead and give back to the community and to know that it doesn't have to be a big thing. You don't have to have lots of money. As long as you give your time and you care about something, I think it will inspire other people, and then you can get traction just from getting a lot of people to care about something and to work towards a common good.
You know, I think the biggest legacy is he was an example of a person who was determined to leave a very positive impact on the community. Part of who he was. It's part of his DNA. He was always like that.
I think the biggest thing Milty did for the community was he actually built community.
His later efforts in the larger community were just an extension.
He loved people, and he could always bring people together and basically, in effect, say, let's do this together.
Milt was like my second dad. But that's not the special thing. The special thing was, I bet you there's probably 200 people in Vancouver who would say the exact same thing. That's how special he was. He just had a way of making everyone feel great.
I think that Canada is made up of people of various backgrounds. That we have all come together and put together a unique country that showcases the best of people working together. Milton was definitely someone who lived that life. I never looked at him as a Chinese Canadian. I looked at him as a Canadian. And when I looked deeper into him, I saw First Nations, I saw Chinese, I saw English, I saw everyone. And I think there's no better definition of calling a man a Canadian than Milton.